Hello and welcome to, I believe, the 5th episode of GWW's 6th episode, as I'm being told by my producer, um, of the Geeks World Wide's weekly Geekly podcast. I'm your host, Matt LaFleur, and I'm joined today by my producer, Agaskly Stamos.
What's going on?
Not John Stamos.
What's going on, everybody?
And Peter Morrow. How's it going, Peter?
Good.
So we have a lot to talk about as I go and recheck the script real quick. Let's start it off with... Let's go with our Weekly Geekly In-Depth. This is not our news section, which is at the end of the show, but we're going to talk a lot today about how we watch movies. Peter, how do you watch movies?
You froze there for a sec. Well, I am a bit of a snob when it comes to watching movies, so I actually go out and buy the physical Blu-ray. I pop it into my DVD or Blu-ray player and watch it on my my TV that I have hooked up to a 7.1 system. That's just real nice. There's really no getting around the higher quality of a Blu-ray over streaming, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I completely agree.
Especially in the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Blu-ray, it's just a better picture, better quality.
No compression. That's what I do.
Right.
Agaskles?
Cool. So I do a few different things. Again, being a big hardware guy, there's lots of gear around here, so I feel obligated to try and use all of it at some point or another. So that's kind of a big deal. I have to kind of manage making sure that I spend some time with each device. So I watch movies on anything from my 50-inch plasma TV all the way down to my 5.5-inch Android phones. So it just kind of depends on where I am in the rotation. I like watching them most on the 50-inch plasma. The screen is pretty gorgeous, and I have to kill the overhead lights in this space if I'm going to watch them on that. I do have a 5.1 home theater in a box connected to that, which gets really great sound. And fortunately, finally in this house, I don't have. There are no bedrooms above this space, so I can actually use the 5.1 speakers. But I'm also very comfortable, watching a movie on a PC, on my 27-inch LED IPS displays, and then I'll also watch them on a tablet or a smartphone.
Yeah, I'm not as into technology as you guys are. That was a big reason why I wasn't on the tech-based episode, because it's just not something that I have as much knowledge in. So, I just watch mine on a typical TV. I use my Xbox as a Blu-ray player. Toss a movie in and just enjoy it. I actually got a new TV, 50 inches, and it allows you to go online. And my dad may or may not have a movie link, may or may not, and the picture may or may not be good quality, but it's still cool to see may or may not see movies that are in theaters.
Okay. Cool.
So that's it for our weekly Geekly In-Depth. Now we're going to go on to our mainline geeking. This is a part of the show where we talk about the one thing that we do as a geek each week. Agaskles, let's start with you.
So you caught me a little off guard because I thought we had a few more things to talk about with regards to movies. So maybe after we get done doing mainline geeking, we ought to go back up to that one, Matt. Just had a few more aspects of that one I thought we were going to cover. So I guess probably one of my main big things is is I finally got around to playing Middle Earth Shadow of Mordor on my PlayStation 4. Um, it's kind of a hack and slash game. It was supposedly one of the better games, maybe arguably the best game on the PlayStation 4 last year. I think it was actually cross-platform. It's definitely not my style of game. I tend to not like the third-person 3D um, action games because they tend to always bog down. The stories. Um, I don't want to say it's not that they get fast because then you have to compare them to like 40 to 80 hours of Morrowind or Skyrim or things like that. So they're not that big, but they just always have those plot points where I get stuck or hung up on a given level. So,
Yeah.
but I bought it. It's been sitting in its case for like probably the better part of a year. So I finally got around to playing it. It's fairly enjoyable. I do like that kind of right off the bat, it allows you to feel pretty powerful in comparison to your enemies. You get a pretty wide array of easily accessible powers. It's not like some of the infamous stuff where like some of the power usages are really like just really off kilter and aren't familiar. You know, when I sit down to play Infamous Second Son, it's like I have to refamiliarize myself with all of the various controls to evoke all the powers. Where I feel like Shadow of Mordor, it's a little more straightforward. They're really just combos. You really just execute power moves by combos. So yeah, and the graphics on it were pretty gorgeous. So I regret not having played that kind of in real time when it was kind of in the zeitgeist. But it's been pretty cool. Its description as just a big orc hunting simulator is pretty fairly accurate. So I think what I do like most about it is you can effectively execute missions using a lot of the stealth mode. Rather than just kind of kicking the door in every stronghold that you go into. And with stealth games, I tend to have a problem with that because it can get really touchy, on whether or not it really executes stealth well, and you can be easily discovered, and then you just get ganged up on by dozens of enemies who appear out of nowhere. But this one, I feel like it's pretty well balanced.
What do you think of the rivalry system?
I have not been exposed to that. Is that like an online feature?
No, it's with the orcs. When you kill a named orc.
Right. Then you can target that one and go after him.
Well, that and if he kills you, he gets more powerful.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's pretty cool. I kind of do like the rogues gallery approach of you can have personal vengeances and you just have this big array of Sauron's army's captains, and you at the end of each mission you pick which one you're going to go after next.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. There's something about how that interacts with the map that I'm not crazy about, because it's like you go in and you target a guy, but then you still have to go out to the map and
Find out where he is.
Scroll around to where he is, and then drop a waypoint. And I do know that from a design aspect, the waypoint differentiation when you're in your character is not great. You see typically two cursor indicators for where different missions are, but they're not differentiated. So a lot of times you see them on your screen, but then you still have to go back to the map to make sure you're actually headed towards the right one. So that's a little bit of a pain. But overall, I'm having a pretty good time. So that's probably been my big thing, and then my I did kind of a short stop in between playing a few hours of that, and caught up on Legends of Tomorrow, and I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, Legends of Tomorrow is a good show. This week I got into. Have you seen Comic Book Men? We kind of talked about this briefly before the show. No? For those of you who don't know, it's a show based on. It's like a reality show basically, but like an actual reality show, not like a fake reality show like the Kardashian show. Like this is what real life actually is of the workers at Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash bookstore. It's on after The Walking Dead on AMC, and it just kind of follows like what it's described as like the Pawn pawn stars of nerds, basically. People will bring in items, figures, old books, and kind of wager with the people behind the counter to get some stuff. It's really cool, and due to like their connection with Kevin Smith, they've been able to connect with a lot of really famous people in the culture. Like there was one episode where they like met Peter Mayhew. There was one episode where George Perez drew one of them a picture of Simon Williams, and I remember before I really became a geek, seeing an ad for that show and thinking, why the hell would anybody ever watch that show? That's so dumb. And then I saw it on Netflix looking up Kevin Smith movies and said, I'll watch that. And it's fantastic. There's only one season on Netflix, but I'm going to jump right in on season 5 when it comes back. It's a really good show, and I recommend it to any fans of Kevin Smith and any comic book fans in general. Pete, what are you up to this week?
I need a new subwoofer for my home theater system. The one I'm using, and this is going to make anyone who really loves audio cringe. The one I'm using is one that I bought almost 16 years ago for my computer. I kind of jury-rigged it, and it's literally falling apart.
Is it a Klipsch?
No. It's
Okay.
Lab Tech.
Okay. All right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Old.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it did the job. It needs to be retired and put out of my misery. So I've been looking at all sorts. Most of my speakers are PSB, which, for those of you who don't know, is a high-end audio speaker that comes manufactured in Canada. Really good quality, but still affordable. Affordable being a relative term. I'm also looking for some new left and right surrounds for that aforementioned 7.1. So I've been audio nerding, audio filing. I've also started reading the Scott Snyder Batman. Started from just reading the trades that have come out. Started with the first one. I think I'm into volume 5 now.
Okay. Are these all from the point of the New 52 go forward?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'm really enjoying them.
This is the end after Endgame, right? Or is it Eternal or Endgame?
So this should be before. This should be at the start of the New 52, right?
Yeah, it's 2011 is the start.
Yeah. So this would be Death of the Family,
Yeah.
Night of the Owls, or whatever.
Yep.
Or the
Yeah, it starts with Night of the Owls.
Yeah, like it's on like issue 48 now, right?
50 something.
Oh, 50.
I think.
He's a real good writer, and he's really good at writing Batman.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. This is the first time I've really picked up a Batman series. I was more a fan of the cartoons than the comics when I was a kid. So I'm really happy. Joker is messed up.
Yeah, Joker
is
messed up. That the Court of Owls run, and like towards the end of that is that issue. I think it's 1 through 40. That. Back to that the movie talk of Gasly's if you want to.
Yeah, well, why don't we go ahead and hit up the news, and then we can swing back and finish up the movie discussion at the end, maybe.
Yeah, sweet. So big news in the CW verse. We have the Supergirl and the Flash is crossing over. What are our opinions of that? As at least for me, as someone who hasn't really been watching Supergirl, but does watch the Flash every week, I don't really care to be honest. That's the picture right there. I think it's how they do it. I mean, I think it's gonna be Barry running real fast to get to that dimension. and maybe bringing Supergirl back over, which I think would be kind of cool because I do like her power set and I like the actress. But what are your thoughts on this, Peter?
I am a fan of Supergirl and never really got into the Flash. So,
Ooh.
from a story perspective, okay. But from an overall perspective, I actually really like the idea that they're trying to connect what seems to me to be a shattered and fragmented universe. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing how this all fits into the greater DC universe. But on a side note, and something I just noticed, Supergirl's costume in comparison to the Man of Steel's costume is ridiculously bright.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I
I
wonder
was
if, do you think that they're going to be in the same universe, or do you think they are gonna like be in parallel dimensions? Or like, do you think Car, what city is she?
National City.
Do you think National City is gonna be in like the same universe that Central City is and Starling City is, or do you think it's gonna be like a parallel dimension? Or have they said that? Because they might have.
Uh, I don't know that I've seen anything that talks about it that in depth. Honestly, how often can you really do the multiverse?
Yeah, that's a good point. I just feel like they were talking. They didn't. They talked about how it wasn't going to be in the same universe and not to expect a crossover.
Yeah,
But I mean, now there is a crossover, so
yeah. Well, people change their minds.
yeah,
Money
just interesting to
talks.
think about. Money does talk. It'll be cool to see Martian Manhunter with the Flash, though.
Yeah.
What are your opinions on this, Agasicles? Or are you not there? Seems like you're not there. Um, as we wait for him, we can pop that down to the next news: the Lego Force Awakens. Shocking news. We didn't think that Disney liked to make money, so figured that they wouldn't go with this bold move.
I like the idea personally. I am a huge fan of the Lego game.
Oh, I love the Lego games.
They are
I'm gonna get
so
Lego Marvel Avengers this weekend.
nice.
What do
Yeah,
you?
these
Go
are
ahead.
these games are the games my wife and I play with together.
Yeah, these are great games.
Yeah,
Do you think there's gonna be any like? I mean, besides how fun the game is gonna be, do you think there's gonna be anything in the in what was I gonna say? Do you think there's gonna be anything like of note, basically?
hard to say. Um,
Are you guys able to hear me now, by the way?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason I lost my good microphone, so I'm on my crappy webcam mic now. Um, just before guys go on, I just on the Supergirl thing, I was gonna say just let them be in the same universe. Like there's no
Do,
need for the additional complication of these two characters existing in parallel universes. Just let her be in a different city, and the Flash have to run there and have them work together.
I agree.
yeah, I do too. It's kind of foolish because then like it like really makes it a huge event every time they're gonna cross over
Right?
if they
Yeah,
do cross
exactly.
over in the future. Because like if
Exactly.
you want to have her cross over with Arrow, maybe she's not gonna be able to because there's not gonna be like the Barry Allen to run through the dimensions and like just make it easy, guys.
Right. Right. So you were talking Lego Force Awakens?
Yeah,
Yes, Peter, what you were saying you played with your wife?
yeah. It's a game my wife and I can play. They're silly games. We've bought most of them. We've played through most of them. Pretty finished most all the stories. They're just fun. They're silly.
Yeah,
Can't go wrong.
I 150% agree. They're just like it's just a fun time. It's you can tell that they're made for kids, but they stick well to the material.
Totally.
Um, this is more news for you guys because this one doesn't really pique my interest as much. Um, Tom Wheeler is criticizing cable companies. So,
Yeah.
fill me in.
So Tom Wheeler, of course, is the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission. Um, and when he first came into was named for the office, now, a lot of us who follow tech news were kind of rolling our eyes because here's a guy who was in the the Hall of Fame for wireless and cable lobbying groups, and now all of a sudden he's going to run a government organization set to oversee these very industries that he was lobbying for. But he surprised us in a lot of ways, and this most recent one is basically he's saying the cable companies should not have absolute control of what what set-top box you watch your cable or satellite through. And the cable companies fired back with some complaints. One of them is that it would stifle innovation, the usual stuff.
Because cable boxes are absolutely the most innovative
right.
pieces of technology. Those things are such pieces of trash. Like, the UIs are horrible. They're like the worst piece of hardware.
Yeah.
I just wanted them to be able to be covered up and stuffed in a closet somewhere. Like,
yeah.
The notion that would stifle innovation is just the most preposterous thing.
Well, I'll tell you what it will stifle. It'll stifle their estimated $230 a year per subscriber.
Right. And the interesting analog is, they used to also say the same thing about modems for your internet connection, and they finally got away from that, and now you can just go to Best Buy and buy your modem and bring it home, and as long as it's a DOCSIS 3.0 or up compliant modem, it should work.
Yeah.
And cable boxes just need to be the same way. And to be quite honest, I don't ever understand what happened with was it called the Smart Card Initiative or
Cable Card?
Cable Card, yeah. So I also don't understand why they just didn't keep going that route, so you can basically connect it to a PC or.
You can still do that.
Okay, all right.
The companies just make it very difficult, and they don't advertise it. Kind of like buying your own modem.
Right.
I kind of liken this to when you had to buy your phone from the phone company.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, stifling innovation. I don't know. That's my opinion. So it'll be interesting. I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of time on in the office because we're about to get a new president here in the next year or so.
Yeah. Now because he took over from because the guy before him was
Bush political appointee.
Right, and he was allowed to remain in office until he left, and then I think Obama appointed Wheeler at a later time. So he might have some additional, and I really feel like he's entering like his ass kicking arc of his term. So that's just like the last guy. He was kind of hitting that burn point as Obama came into office, and I think that may have been why he was allowed to remain in place. So.
It could be.
Hopefully Wheeler will get the same, because I think that dude is I think he got a completely BS rap when he came in. Like the misinterpretation of what he was trying to say about net neutrality, based solely on people not actually reading the documentation, but simply saying because he was a former cable lobbyist that he was trying to kill net neutrality was wildly and horribly misreported. So I'm glad he's getting a little chance to get his shine on.
And I mean, in all fairness, he was a cable lobbyist before he got this job. So.
Right. Yep.
All right. PlayStation.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
I was just about to say before we get to the Uncharted, was Wheeler considered to be like a good head of the FCC?
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah. I guess my opinion is so I label a good chair of the FCC is a guy or girl who's out to kind of rein in. I mean, my opinion is that guy's job is to rein in these very large oligopolies of telecoms. That including the wireless carriers who are out to leverage anti-consumer policies that keep costs high unnecessarily and limit consumer choice. And I think definitely I think the early part of his term was very muddled in the net neutrality thing because people didn't understand what it was. I think he was trying to do he was trying to take a pro-consumer stance in that, but it got very muddled in the messaging. I think now that we're clear of that and moving on, I think it's very clear to me that he's doing the job that I expect of a good FCC chairman. So yes, I think he's, for the most part, at least as far as what's being reported and what I'm aware of, I think he's doing good things.
Well, he's certainly listening to the people. I mean, his original.
He's certainly listening to this podcast.
Yeah, he better. His original net neutrality proposal was met with a lot of criticism, but it also started a wave of response, and the FCC got, to put it in perspective, the nip slip at the Super Bowl with Janet Jackson, the halftime
2003.
Show. Yeah. So that
Patriots Panthers game.
Yeah.
Patriots won that second Super Bowl, baby.
Yeah. So that little slip up got the FCC something like about 1 million complaints.
Some would say a nip slip up.
Yeah. The net neutrality issue got something like 4 million write-ins to the FCC in support of net neutrality. So it's the most, before the FCC, the nip slip from Janet was the most complained about event on TV.
Really?
Really, it was the highest complaints the FCC had ever gotten until net neutrality. It's amazing what a difference a letter makes.
This just reminds me of that episode of Family Guy where Peter gets a Nielsen box. It's like 100 of them, and he just changes TV to be what he wants it to be. It's a great episode.
Yep.
And they talk about the Dick Van Dyke Show, and they're bleeping out Dick and Dyke.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the Uncharted bundle coming out April 26th. This is not surprising. Why wouldn't you release a bundle for one of your most popular gaming franchises? Xbox is the same thing with Halo. I mean, neither of you guys are surprised, are you?
No.
No, we knew this was coming. It's kind of weird to me that it includes the 500 gigabyte SKU. Like I don't know at this point. I'm like, I don't know why Microsoft or Sony would even bother continuing to sell their 500 gigabyte SKUs.
Seriously.
Like it was woefully undersized when those consoles first launched, and they should all just be selling their 1 terabyte SKUs. The crazy thing about this, I think Microsoft does a slightly better job of this. The PlayStation 4 bundles, like with the custom color schemes, like I frequently don't get why is Nathan Drake's color gray? Right?
I have a Modern Warfare one which I can actually get up and show everyone. PlayStation 3. Let me flip my camera around, or it's not gonna. You can continue talking while I try to figure out my phone real quick.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, we knew it was coming end of April. I assume that is also concurrent with the release date of Uncharted 4, which this article doesn't specifically call out and mention. But I guess that's what more so excites me is in video games we often talk about this whole thing that all the great games don't drop they all drop all at once in the holiday season. So the fact that that this game is going to drop at the end of April, I think is pretty exciting. It's unfortunate it's not typically for spring games, I like them to either come out kind of in March, so that well, it matters less to me now, but um, so that it drops for like spring break, um, or else that it drops Memorial Day weekend or the week of Memorial Day weekend. So, but you can buy this in late April and kind of chew on it a little bit, and then really spend some time with it on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, I've never gotten the whole limited edition custom video game console things. I mean, the Forza one was cool, but I'm a little biased that way.
Right.
I like blue. Um, but I mean, an extra $50 for a funky color.
Yeah, they've never attracted me as a
Yeah.
standalone. Where I would wind up buying one of these is if for some reason I needed to buy either a new unit because there was something wrong, there was a bent cable or a bent pin or something on the old unit,
Right.
or it had failed and I didn't feel like dorking around with the warranty. Then I might buy one of these, and that's kind of what I did with my Xbox Elite. Um, I just kept sending my 360 back and getting the red ring of death. So finally, I was like, I'm not sending this thing back again. I'm just going to go buy an Xbox 360 Elite,
That's what I did.
which wasn't a custom thing, but it was a different SKU.
That was a better model too.
Yeah, yeah. Although that one red ringed on me also, and I departed the Microsoft console zone for 5 years.
Yeah.
But that's a story for another podcast.
Yeah, the 500 gigabyte thing is totally confusing too.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to some movie news coming out next week. As we all know, next week from today is the movie Deadpool, and Deadpool has been taking out ads just like a fucking madman. Like before we get into this news, their advertising has been the greatest advertising, arguably, of all time. But they have purchased commercials during 3 hours of programming on the 5 Viacom networks, which include MTV, VH1, Spike, and it just adds fire to the flame that is Deadpool marketing.
Yeah, I thought I was really, and this would normally not be a news story that I would have pulled, but very frequently movies live or die on their marketing, and unfortunately, a lot of good movies, don't get a lot of exposure because the studios don't spend the necessary marketing on them.
That happens a lot to independent films, like
Yeah.
The Room. I didn't even know about The Room until it got Oscar buzz.
Right, right. So I thought this was fairly interesting. It's also interesting how they handled this as a singular arc, meaning there hasn't been a ton of, what they're doing with Deadpool is not what they're doing with Suicide Squad, right? Where there's freaking rampant marketing far ahead of the release of that movie. I'm a little concerned about Suicide Squad because I'm worried about it getting to the point of saturation. Because I'm kind of already at the point with that thing where I'm like, just show me the movie, right? I don't need more of this. But it's interesting that it feels like what they did was that they held off on spending a lot of money on marketing way ahead of Deadpool, and it's a February movie. You've got Valentine's Day. It's a slightly different dynamic in the box office, and it feels like they said, look, the nerds know that this movie is coming out, so we don't need to do a bunch like 5-6 months ahead. Let's just have Ryan drop a couple Instagram photos and whatnot, and then let's just do this super strong push in the weeks leading up to its actual release. I'm interested to see if that's the right thing to do. It feels like it should be.
Their whole marketing campaign, it just really feels like Deadpool to me. I mean, have you seen the Ryan Reynolds check your junk testicular cancer video?
Yeah,
Yeah. There's
that's not
another
even my
one
favorite one.
Yeah, there's another one for instructing ladies to check for breast cancer monthly, talking about how to do it. The funniest ones are the ones that are coming out from Fox that are legitimately claiming that Deadpool is a romantic comedy.
That
But you
yeah,
should take your
yeah.
date. Well, wife and I actually have our tickets for that Sunday showing. We know what it's about though.
Um, there's I think that's a really cool thing that they're doing, kind of tricking people into thinking it's a romantic comedy. But I know some people that have seen it early, and I don't know any spoilers from the movie itself, but they say it's a superhero movie experience that they haven't felt in a long time, and they say it's really, really good, which is a great sign. But my favorite one is when the petition was going around about making Deadpool PG-13, and he has one where he's like, I forget what he's like, so Timmy, your mom's making a petition about making this movie PG-13. Well, Timmy, fuck you and your mom's a whore. And it's just perfectly describes Deadpool. It's like, he's like, you're not going to take any shit from anyone. The movie's going to be what the movie's going to be. And you're not going to change that. And I just think that the marketing for that movie really shows what that movie's going to be. And I'm really, really, really looking forward to it.
All right, man. Why don't we hit one more news story and then, like we said, go back to the main topic.
Yep. So to close it all off on the news, let's talk about. Do we want to talk about Ghostbuster images, Power Rangers,
There should be one up there for Fear the Walking Dead.
Fear the Walking Dead? I mean, I was just reading through the list of whatever you guys want to go at.
Yeah, well, I got the Fear the Walking Dead one up on the screen, so why don't we...
Let's hit that then.
Yep.
I never got into this show. I mean, I kind of stopped watching The Walking Dead in like middle of the 5th season once I realized that it's the same show every single season. And then, true to Walking Dead form, this season 6 trailer came out and I was right back in. After I had sworn the show off, I was like, you know what, I'm done. See, this trailer comes out and I'm like, I'm back. You got me. I'm back. But I never got into Fear the Walking Dead. I watched the first 3 episodes and it just didn't really fit my fancy. So this news doesn't really mean anything to me.
Yeah, so for me, Fear the Walking Dead was definitely a slow burn. I completely accept and acknowledge the rationale of people who chose not to stick with it or couldn't stick with it. I feel like it was very rewarding if you did stick with it, but I will admit it would be hard for you to know that you should stick with it if you were not already a Walking Dead fan. But the show definitely, I felt like, started to kind of hit on its beats as it headed into the end of the first half of the season. So Dougray Scott.
Name sounds very familiar. Can you give me a little rundown on him?
Yeah, probably most familiar to people, as I would think, is the bad guy in Mission Impossible 2.
Oh, that's where it is.
And I've got his IMDb page up here. So he's the bad guy in Mission Impossible 2, bad guy in Taken 3, plays on Hemlock Grove.
He's in Hitman.
Yep. I guess did a stint on The Wrong Man's, a show that I've been interested in, but I just haven't made the time.
He was in Death Race Inferno?
Apparently so. Yeah.
All right.
So it just typically, I guess he has a knack for playing a bad dude. So it's very interesting that the byline on his casting on this show is actually a more of a good guy. At least that's the buzz. Talks about him playing a new character named Casey, who's described as a decent man who believes in civility.
Just like Casey Walsh.
So, but then it says, this who is confident in an unexpected position of authority. So I'm wondering if we're going to get kind of another riff on, the
governor.
The governor, yep. And it'll be interesting if we see this character kind of start at a high point and then decline. The other thing that I thought was interesting in this article that I didn't get and worries me a bit is they talk about this show, the second half of the show, being split up. So it looks like we may get a little kind of Battlestar Galactica action here, where we get the first half of the second season in April, but then maybe we get season 1.5 or whatever, maybe in the summer or maybe even in the fall. I'm not sure. So that's a little worrisome because these shows are nicer when there's solid continuity. Chunking it up into a block of like 4 episodes now and 5 episodes later is a little worrisome, and encourages people to not watch it in real time, and makes them more likely to just wait until it's somewhere where they can binge it.
Yeah. And I wonder what the rationale behind that is. Maybe like to kind of catch more viewers on
Usually it's because of funding.
Yeah. But
You-
I wonder if there anything. I wonder because I feel like AMC is just gonna pound money into any Walking Dead property.
Right.
So I wonder if there's anything like maybe people will watch it and tell people about it, so we'll be able to give them time to catch up during those breaks.
I wonder if they feel like they miscalculated after seeing the show's performance in the first half of the season. Although, so they were on before The Walking Dead came on, and I think they actually wrapped. I'd have to go back and check. I thought they actually wrapped their final episode and then The Walking Dead season 6 premiered, but I'm not certain. But I wonder if they just want to keep some separation between when this show is on and when The Walking Dead is on. So
Even a Walking Dead property has a tough time going up against The Walking Dead.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, Peter, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I don't know those shows at all.
All right, well then.
Limited amount of time. You gotta pick my shows, and sometimes good ones get lost on the floor. I've heard a lot of good things about both series. I just haven't had a chance to watch any of them.
I know we said we get to the movie discussion, but I want to briefly talk about the People versus O.J. Simpson. That's not really something that you would think about being a topic on this show, but it is big in TV right now. And have you guys have you watched the first episode? Yeah.
No.
No, man, I lived that.
Yeah,
I don't need to see it.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I'll give my quick little cliff notes on it. Everyone in the show is fantastic, from Ross from Friends to Cuba Gooding Jr. The show's great. It's really they haven't really established their stance on like if OJ did it or not, which I thought would be kind of like much bigger. I thought they would lead right in with like we think he did it or we don't think he did it, but they really haven't done that one. I think it's actually kind of a smart move to keep it ambiguous. But I think the real cool thing about this is it's going to be a series. What they're going to do with it is they're going to have, like next season's going to be about the Katrina trials and such. And it's going to be just like different seasons.
Okay. So they're going to take on like a big
case every single time.
Okay.
Which I think is a good idea.
So it's okay. So it's like courtroom True Detective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it.
An American Horror Story.
It's from the guy that does American Horror Story.
Okay, yeah, and it's probably gonna be like a second chance outlet for like actors and actresses whose careers maybe.
Well, that's what it kind of seems like. Cuba Gooding Jr. is kind of on the.
Yeah,
I liked him.
Yeah. Yeah, he was fine until he freaking started doing movies about dog sleds.
Hey, so you got to pay the bills, man.
They say that about a lot of people. David Schwimmer's in it, and his career has kind of been silent for a long time.
Yeah.
He plays Rob Kardashian.
Okay.
He's actually really good in it, and he hasn't really been really good in something since Friends, in all honesty.
Band of Brothers. Really good in Band of Brothers.
Never got around to that.
Oh, that's interesting. That's well, and it reminds me that's a thing that I never got around to because I was kind of. Well, first of all, video game wise, I've spent a lot of time in World War II.
Yeah. No kidding.
We're a little bit, I think, maybe over the hour mark. So let's crush that movie talk real quick and then say sayonara.
And we're and
So,
we're actually kind of good on time, Matt. We're about 15 minutes under the 1 hour mark.
oh, really? Sweet. All right.
Yeah.
So, what you got for movie? What else do you want to hit on?
So let's a second. I'm gonna rearrange my screen here a bit. Just send it back to the other side. Um, so we had a few other things we wanted to go over. We talked a little bit about hardware. Why don't we talk about services? And I thought it was interesting that you guys mentioned that you prefer Blu-ray. But I guess one of my questions is, how far do you go out of your way in comparison to digital? Like for instance, this week, and I'm on Two Guys, a Girl, and a Scene. Peter Morrow's guest starred on that show. That's kind of the big movie podcast for the network, and we have homework assignments, things we have to watch before an episode, and quite frankly, I frequently hit Friday, 48 hours before that show's supposed to go live, and I'm like, I don't have time to hunt down the Blu-ray. Let me just buy it digital somewhere. So, I mean, do you guys reserve your Blu-ray disc buying specifically to like big action set piece movies, or are you getting everything on Blu-ray and only buying digital when absolutely necessary?
I don't really buy movies anymore.
Okay.
Like, I never really, well, to be honest, I never bought movies in general. It's my dad has this huge collection downstairs, like down in my basement, and it has like a lot of like iconic movies. So all the Star Wars movies are down there. Some of the
Okay.
Indiana Jones movies are down there. That Tom Cruise lawyer movie from the '90s, I can't think of the name
Yeah.
right now.
The Firm.
No, not that one.
Few Good Men.
Few Good Men. I love that
It's a
movie.
good
How could I not
movie.
think of the name? I love that movie. But it's a lot of movies like that. Crimson Tide.
Okay. So
No, I don't.
he's a collector.
Yeah,
Get that?
yeah.
But it sounds like you don't feel like you need to own your movies, which is
Yeah,
kind of a big thing of. I don't want to label it even as your generation, although I think a lot of people would. But I'm getting out of that too, to a certain extent. I buy movies because I either, if I have to watch something, I will lean more towards buying it than renting it, because I hate paying like a third to 25% of the cost it would take me to just own the thing and be able to rewatch it sometime. But my thing is, I started with like keeping my DVD cases, and then I went to, I can't stand having these cases all over the place, so let me buy these big honking wallets with like 200 discs in them. Then I got tired of lugging those around every time I moved, and I just got to a point, and I can distinctly remember the day I was thinking through it, and I'm like, why am I paying for these physical copies when Amazon and these other services are investing billions of dollars in a digital warehouse? Why would I not just let them keep all that crap, and I just have the ability to call it on demand at the push of a button? So is that kind of what you're doing, Matt? You feel like as long as you have a service where you can get to it, you don't really feel like you need to own it?
yeah. And it's weird because with like a book, I always like, I'm fine with renting a movie. Like what was the most recent movie I rented? The Social Network.
Okay.
I rented that, and I'm completely fine. But say like if the Social Network was a book, which I think it is, if I was to read the book, I wouldn't go to the library and get it. I would buy the book so I could read it again.
Okay. What about?
Which is what's up?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just think that's kind of like, it's kind of funny to think like I would never rent a book, but I would never, like, I almost never buy movies.
Right, right,
And I'm more of a movie guy than a reading guy.
right. And Peter, what about you?
I haven't rented a movie since Blockbuster went away. But actually, I think they're still around, kind of, in Hawaii. Oh,
Yeah,
they're-
and they have an online service.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still up, but they were doing at a time, for a time they were doing something analogous to Netflix.
Yeah.
I was
I
going
mean,
to say their online service is called Netflix.
Okay.
no, they actually had a separate one, but yeah. I mean, we've got a Netflix, we've got an Amazon Prime, but none of them have the special features,
Okay.
And I I'm one of those nerds. I like the director commentary. I like the making of, the behind the scenes,
Yeah, right. Now,
and yeah, go ahead.
so now iTunes movies do
Not really.
not like they used to have on the disc.
No, I mean they have they do have it, and they do have some of the the director commentary stuff sometimes for some of the movies, but
Okay, it's not like DVD and Blu-ray where it's
yeah,
always there. Okay.
yeah. Um, I also am an aforementioned giant nerd when it comes to audio and video quality, so the idea of compressed digital signal is I want the whole thing.
Right.
I want to be able to own it. I like the case. I'm weird. I've got a shelf. Kind of proud of them. I
No.
mean, I even own Schindler's List in a couple of different formats.
Right. Yeah.
It's
No.
just cinematically a beautiful movie.
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, if you're, and I don't want this to come across as if it sounds like snobbish, but if
It's a little snobbish.
It's very snobbish, please, already. I'm offended.
No, I mean my take is a little snobbish.
No, what I was going to say is if you have the lifestyle where you are relatively assured that you're not moving, or that your temperament is just so that it's not that big a deal to you, then absolutely having that like display case kind of stuff makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. So
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
and I get the other side too. I do own a few digital movies because there was a problem getting the actual physical copies at one point. So I just like screw it. I'm gonna buy these digital, then I'll have them and I can watch them, and I still haven't.
Yeah. So now we've talked a little bit about those services. What is your guys' level of investment in those services and your profile? So, and what I mean by that is, when I first got my Netflix account in 2009, like that profile, and I mean like consistently reviewing like all the movies that I watched, so that I could go in and check and see like my scores and my averages and my trends and stuff was a big deal to me. It was more important to me when they were shipping me DVDs. But now that I watch Netflix like at the speed of light and it's all streaming, I'm like, and I'm frequently watching it not on a PC. So I used to maintain like a huge reservation list of like everything I wanted to watch in there, and now I don't bother. I'm like, why am I maintaining this list of like 100 movies that I want to watch and TV shows? 90% I'll never get around to. Why don't I just, when I get done watching one thing, just immediately decide what the next thing is? And so now I don't invest any labor effort in like maintaining my queue. And I kind of want to feel for like how you guys handle that stuff.
Basically, what I do too. I don't bother. I've never really bothered. Keeping track of what I have and haven't watched and whether or not I like them. I just, I feel that we sometimes have a tendency to censor, especially with these big services that use your likes and dislikes as an algorithm to give you what you like.
Right.
And I've seen some really fun movies that I probably never would have thought to look at. I've seen some really terrible movies that might have looked good to me. I mean, yeah. So it's a mixed bag, but I'm definitely exposed to all sorts of. I feel like I'm exposed to more random movies, not curating that list.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, if you only watch what's recommended to you, I guess you're likely to only ever watch the stuff that you were already planning on watching anyway.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I never would have seen Snowpiercer, whether or not that was a good thing.
So that's again another reason why, and I'll plug that show again. That's another reason why I love our movies podcast, Two Guys, a Girl, and a Scene, because the the setup for that
Jesus,
show
with these pluggings, these plugs, my
If he
God.
didn't plug it, I would have.
the
Just be on
love
that
that
show
show.
already.
the setup for that show is, my two co-hosts, Jonathan Reyes and Sarah Belmont. They pick the movies. We watch them. We have two viewing episodes a month. So there's two movies. They pick them. I'm completely out of that whole formula. So that winds up being added to my viewing catalog of what I've seen, and they are frequently things that I would have never. They're just so off vector from what I would normally consume, that I feel like it makes me a more well-rounded film watcher. So
Would you have watched Ex Machina if it wasn't for that?
I would have taken a long time to come around to that. I probably eventually, but it may have been a year or two afterwards.
So do you consider it a good thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Beast of No Nation, probably would have never watched that.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Maddie, what about you, man? In your service profiles and your queues and.
I don't necessarily tend to keep up with my queue, but I do usually. I don't really there'll be shows I'm like, all right, I'm gonna watch that, but then just watch 2 episodes, and then I never can really get past the pilot part of it where it's because a show like Breaking Bad, which is good from the start, but doesn't really get good for a couple seasons in, or even midway through the first season. I didn't get to that. So I watched the first episode 6 times before I really started watching the show. So there's a lot of things like that will happen to me where it's oh, that show, I've heard that show, oh, great things about that show, let me watch that.
Right.
Oh,
right.
oh wait, I know I like Family Guy, so I'm just going to go watch Family Guy instead.
Yeah. So since you're going there, let me ask that question, and I think from my perspective, that'll be our last one, and then I'll turn it back over to you, Matt, and you can take us out. Are there, how do you watch movies on the go? Is there anything significant about how you consume movies in that manner? And then finally, is there any difference or are there major differences between how you consume movies through those same services using your hardware versus how you consume TV?
For me, no. Do you mean am I gonna I only watch a movie on a certain thing?
Well, yeah. I mean, and I'm gonna pitch to Peter here. With the large screen TVs and the surround sound setup. I went through a point in my life where I was I'm only watching movies on that setup, right? I'm not going to watch a suboptimal movie experience when I have a big screen TV and a home theater with surround sound. So that was a thing for me for a time. So either one of you guys, do you have a preferred hardware setup where you are insistent that that's where you watch your movies or what?
Well, and I know for me, considering I had a real old TV because my dad made a bet with himself that he wouldn't get rid of this TV till it broke, and this thing was thick and old and low def, so it didn't really matter to me what I was watching what TV and movies on. I would tend to mostly watch my phone because that was honestly a better picture. But now that I have this new TV, I prefer to watch it on that. But since I'm used to been watching on my phone and such for such a long time, that it's not oh my God, I'm not going to watch this movie unless I'm watching it on a TV or on a movie, or at the movie theater, So I guess my answer to your question would be no, I don't have a preferred thing.
Okay. What about you, Peter?
Well, yeah. Again, a snob, so. No, I generally prefer watching movies on the big screen with the surround sound and the lights off and the blinds drawn and the
if I'm watching a movie, it's pitch black. That's just a
the
given.
dawn quiet, which doesn't always happen. But at the same time, I've mentioned before the Kindle Fire that I have. I mean, when the wife and I are traveling and we're in a place with Wi-Fi, that's what we use to fall asleep to. We'll pop a documentary or a movie we've seen, through Amazon Prime. It's a streaming service on that thing, and it's not optimal, but it gets the job done. We try not to watch anything new on it.
Okay.
because we're falling asleep
Right. Right.
generally. Other places, though, I'm not gonna say no. My father-in-law wants to watch the latest action movie with me. I'm not gonna say no.
Right. Right.
That's all. It's not my optimum spot. But that's okay. It's still fun. To me, the movie is the experience is partially who you're watching it with.
Right. Right.
Yeah, like that link I may or may not have. Um, I won't watch like I wouldn't go watch like Captain America a day early. Like I did that with Avengers 2, allegedly, and I'm not admitting to absolutely anything on this right now. Um, I I did that. I may have done that, and it wasn't as good of an experience, which may have ruined my opinion on the movie. But so like I'm not gonna watch a Jurassic World or a Batman vs Superman on a small screen. Those types of movies that you have to see, I think, at the movies. But like
Right.
Hail Caesar, which I'm really looking forward to. I don't need to see Hail Caesar in the theater.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely a factor that's crept into my life. Is that once I got this, this, and this is my second big screen TV. But yeah, I was definitely at the point there where my threshold for a movie that I felt like I had to be in the movie theater to see was much less. And I'll frequently comment on that on movie reviews, where if I physically go to the theater, one of the things I'll say when I come out of it is I could have just as soon seen this movie, on my big screen TV in my basement. It really needs to be a solid spectacle. And as much as I have my detractions from The Force Awakens, that was a movie worth going to see unfold on the big screen.
Yeah, like I don't need to spend $25 to go see Spotlight at the movies when
Right,
I can just as easily spend $6 and watch it at my house and lose absolutely nothing.
right, right,
But I'm not gonna spend. I'm perfectly fine spending $25 to see Star Wars than waiting to see it at my house.
right, right. And I will thoroughly admit and acknowledge that I may have said the complete opposite in the past about The Force Awakens, but right now, today, I feel like it was worthwhile going to see that in the movie theater versus watching it at home. So I think that's pretty good coverage on that topic. I think we satisfied the desires of anybody that we had given early notification that was going to be our main topic. So,
Mm-hmm.
so
So,
I'll turn it back over to you, Maddie, to take us out.
so that's a wrap, folks. Thank you for joining us on the 6th episode of GWW's Weekly Geekly. We pleasure podcasting with you, and we will see you next week. Bye.